Good morning, all. Good morning to everyone. It's a great honor for me to introduce our chief guest of today, Brigadier Aruna Menon. Brigadier Aruna Menon is a professor and head of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at AFMC Pune. She is a native of Kerala, but spent most of her childhood years in Goa. An alumnus of Government Medical College, Calicut in Kerala, she completed her MBBS in 1987. She joined the Indian Army Medical Corps in 1990 as a captain. She went on to do her post-graduation from AFMC and topped the Pune University at the MD Gynecology exam and was awarded the Umranikar Medal for the same. She currently holds the rank of a brigadier. She has been posted to various military hospitals all over the country, including AFMC, and is recognized UG and PG teacher of Maharashtra University Health Services. She has also headed 250-bedded hospital at Patiala, Punjab, where she contributed much in a way of COVID preparedness of the hospital. She has several published national and international papers in obstetrics and gynecology to her credit, and has been actively involved and participated in various state and national conferences and workshops as a faculty. She has contributed chapters in books of gynecology. Her special areas of interest are oncosurgery in gynecology and laparoscopy. She was awarded the Army Commander's Commendation Card in 2012 for the distinguished services. She is a wife of Major General Rajiv Krishnan, mother of two well-accomplished children, an avid reader and blogger. She loves watching movies and surfing the net. She is an author for the online magazine Women's Web. She has a blog called Ripples and Reflections and has won several online blogathons and writing competitions. She presently writes at yourcode.in and has published 5 collections of her poems and quotes and contributes to anthology regularly. She loves cooking and enjoys trying out new recipes. She has also dabbled in painting. So what are we waiting for? It's a beautiful Sunday morning. Let's all grab our cup of coffee and catch all inspiring and interesting stories from our Brigadier Aruna Menon. Over to you, Anita ma'am.
Thank you for Anuradha. So I hope everyone has their cup of coffee. And so we're toasting today morning with just coffee because it's just 10:30 in the morning. And so let's start our session with Brigadier. She is she is a army officer, a professor, a doctor, a poet, and a woman. So when I actually reached out to General Bobby Thomas and asked for an army officer, that's all we were asking for, an army officer. The rest is all icing and bonus that we got, that she's playing so many roles and is a wonderful example of our title to celebrate all that is women. Having said that, we have so many boys and girls on campus, and a small group of them aspire to be part of the defense. In fact, in January, we recognized 4 of them with the Young Alumni Achiever Award, and one of them a woman in Coast Guards. But the majority of our boys and girls, they want to go into the tech and corporate world. So I was just wondering, how is it, Brigadier, that when did you decide that you want to join the army? Did you follow your husband into the army? Because I saw in your bio that you got married to an army officer. And how did your family react to both your aspirations, to be a doctor and to be an army officer?
Good morning to everyone, and thank you so much for having me here today. Well, as far as joining the army goes, yes, you have been astute in knowing that I actually joined because I got married to my husband. He was a captain then. And I had just finished MBBS and was looking toward a career anyway, that was for sure. And I initially took a short service commission in the army, that is for 5 years. And then I found that it was a good way of life. It was a good way to practice medicine. And I also had a option of, for pursuing my own career. And thirdly, if I joined the army, I had my own setup of being in an environment where I was secure and in a familiar environment, because my husband being from the forces and from a combat arm, he would be away from home quite often. So as it is, all of us as army officers' wives, which is another entity in itself, because we have a different way of life. We stay away from our husbands very often. when they're out, on exercise, on the borders, so many places when they're away. So if I was in that environment as an officer myself, I would understand him better. I would be part of the system in a way where it would do all of us a lot of good. I mean, that is what I felt. So initially, I tried a stint of 5 years. And then I also wanted to do my PG. Those days, we weren't allowed to do PG unless you take a permanent commission. And in short, I liked the army way of life. And initially, it was a trial. And after liking it, I joined it and took it as a career and as a permanent option. So that's how I joined.
So, I know I mentioned it to you, but the others may not be aware. My dad was also, a doctor in the AMC,
Yeah.
Army Medical Corps. So you were talking about, how your husband was away, and anyway, Army wives, they have to manage on their own. I remember as a child, and I must have studied in something like 6 schools and 4 colleges.
Exactly.
So it was a very enriching experience. I've lived in places from Kerala to Kashmir, and meeting people, culture, cuisine, all that is wonderful. But I'm also sure it's not easy. How do you think, how many times were you transferred? How do you think it impacted your family?
Yeah, so I think this is my 12th station after I joined, and that's in a span of 30 years. So on an average, maybe 2 to 3 years in one station. As far as the family is concerned, I think they have it tougher than us, because after all, our workplace remains essentially the same. Only the people change. You're still doing the same type of work. You're still working if I'm working in a hospital, my husband is working in an office unit, whatever. But for the children and for the spouses who are not part of the army, who are, working in a separate environment, maybe in the corporate world, maybe on their own. So for them, it is definitely a huge, being uprooted every 2 years. You go to a new school, you go to a new place, you go to a new, maybe for the spouses who are working, to a new workplace entirely, where you don't know anybody. So yes, that is definitely a little upsetting. But the flip side, like you mentioned, I mean, we get to see almost the entire country. We've been to the north, south, east, west. I mean, it's all over. And then we get to adapt. We get to, that the number of changes that we go through and the way we adjust to different kinds of people, different settings. So I think my children have also benefited from that. And all said and done, I have no regrets. I am very happy having continued to have this career in the army. I've made a whole lot of friends who have been, they're not friends only for the duration that you're there in the station. And if at all you lose touch, when you regain touch or you meet again, it's just taking up from where you left off. So the army, in a nutshell, is a way of life, even for the families and the spouses and everybody. So I have enjoyed, and I feel my children have benefited. Of course, there have been, every coin has two sides, but all in all, I think the benefits have outweighed the risks, if I put it in medical terms. So yes, I think we've had a wonderful tenure. I mean, now it's been 31 years and 34 years of marriage. So so I
34
don't
years
have
of
any
marriage.
regrets.
Okay, so it's a way of life. Yes, you're right. The army is a way of life. I wanted to ask you something. See, I think it was 2 years back, I was listening to this motivational speech by Admiral Macraven. I think it did viral at that time. And he was this speech, he was basically drawing lessons, life lessons from SEAL training. Okay, life lessons were great, but I was listening in horror to the severity of the training that was being undergone by the SEAL. And he was saying there was a bell in the middle of the yard, which if anybody wants to quit, they just need to go and ring that bell and you can leave. No questions asked. I would have rung that bell on that first day. Okay, I wouldn't have lasted at all. But how I want to ask you, how rigorous is the physical training for officers in the Indian Army? Is it different for women? Is there like a different criteria for women? And what about mental fitness to serve in the army?
Yeah. First of all, I mean, I think I'll deal with the mental fitness because we undergo a kind of a psychological tests, and I mean, they have their own ways of knowing whether you can take there is a bit, whatever you say, there is a level of stress which is there when you are part of the army life. You have the stress of being away from your family. You have the stress of your husband being away, so many things. So there are certain psychological tests which are done at the very beginning. And then it is an ongoing process. If you can't take the stress, there will be checks and balances which are there in place. As far as physical training is concerned, well, we are a little different because we are doctors in the army. So our physical training is not as rigorous or as, I would say, as exacting as it is for the other regular officers. So yes, we undergo about 2 to 3 months of training in our own. All of us have our own centers where the officers are trained once we join. Majority of them join from the AFMC, so they have a certain background. But all of us who join from the civvy street, we go there and get trained. And but that is also part of life, and we are all young then. And I did all the running, and there are certain night ditch which you have to clear by jumping. You have to go on a cross-country run. There's lots of things, but which were all quite possible for me at that age, and I didn't have any problems. But from 1992, when the officers have started joining the other arms, I mean, not the combat arms yet, but all the other arms, they undergo the same training that the other officers do for a period of almost 49 weeks. That's almost a year, again at your place in Chennai, because they all join in through the OTA, which is the Officers Training Academy. So that's where they train, and they undergo training rigorously. I've been posted to MH Chennai as such, and I've seen them training, and I've seen the way, they go in as girls and then they come out all muscled and fit. But I think they too sort of enjoy it. And it's not just a physical training. That itself is a mental training. That itself makes them mentally fit to undergo all the challenges that they're going to have in their own career in all ways. So yeah, there are a few physical parameters which have been adjusted according to the woman, but otherwise they do all training neck to neck with the male officers.
Wonderful. So both men and women are undergoing the same physical training. It's not like women are the weaker sex and let's go easy on them. No? Okay. Wow. Okay. So, Brigadier, as an army officer, what were your 2 best moments in your life? I don't know if best moment is most challenging. Otherwise, let's say 1 best moment, 1 most challenging moment, and maybe a worst moment as well.
Okay. Best moment. Yeah, I think my best moment was my most challenging moment also, which was when, you're always balancing being a woman and a mother and a work. So as far as that was concerned, I did my MD or rather I became pregnant when I was doing my MD in this very same institute where I'm now the HOD. So that was when my daughter was born. And I didn't want to take any maternity leave, so I didn't take a single day's leave. I had a cesarean, and I timed it so well that it was just 2 weeks before my exam. And I had a lot of help. My mom has always been a huge source of inspiration as well as help. She was there with me. But after all, the pregnancy has to be, borne by me for those 9 months. And finally, I got my daughter and I got my degree simultaneously. So I would put that as my most challenging moment, personally and professionally. I mean, that was where it really met. And then we have a small exam before the university exam, and then we appear for the university exam. Maybe I was, kind of scared that I may not do well. So I put in an extra effort. Whatever it is, I finally got the university rank as well. So yeah, I think that was my best moment. As far as worst moment, I really wouldn't have any bad moments to reflect on, because it's been a good journey. Of course, you can't have anything totally smooth. There are problems. There are professional problems. I had a problem about staying alone so many times, being a single parent to young children who are, in their own ways challenging to bring up. And my husband has been away for often. So possibly those periods of separation were a little tough. I still wouldn't call it my worst moment. I think that taught me a lot. I became quite independent. And I think it kept my marriage alive as well. It is still young at 34 because we've spent only 14 to 15 years actually together as a couple. So that's how I would put it.
I'm beginning to think you're a superwoman. No maternity leave. I got a shock when I heard that. And you're fighting for maternity leave over here. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I make sure that all my residents now, or anybody who's junior, they do get their leave
okay.
because it's not that easy to
Yeah,
not take a single day's chutti during the entire pregnancy.
definitely. Uh, and we just heard in the bio that when you were in Punjab and commanding the hospital there, how you were actively involved in preparing that hospital for COVID. And I'm going to ask you a couple of related questions. One, I would like you to comment on the role of women in this pandemic that happened, either as health workers or community organizers in whatever aspect. The other thing I want to mention is, this UN theme for this International Women's Day is achieving women in leadership, achieving equal future. So this women in leadership, we have made a mark in many fields. You are an example of that. You're also in a leadership role. But why is it that women are scarce in leadership roles? And take the pandemic, for instance, in spite of, we are definitely in the forefront, women are in the forefront, but how much space do we have in the policy making space? How are we present there? And if we are not present in leadership roles or in policy making spaces, is there an impact? Is there an adverse impact, or is that okay? Or why is it like that? Could you comment?
Yeah, so I think all this is interrelated because, like you said, women were a huge part of the health force, whether be it in the as doctors or as nurses or as caregivers in general. Despite which, they're the ones who suffered the most, not the health givers. I'm talking about women in general. As far as the pandemic is concerned, the women workforce, I feel, because a lot of them are part of the informal workspace because of their various commitments to family life, and so they are in the temporary workforce. So, and that is the sector that has got hit the most. Secondly, they are a huge part of the tourism, the hospitality industry, those kind of industries. Again, they're almost at a standstill. For some time, they were doing nothing, and they were the ones who were laid off the most. And thirdly, women are the ones who are giving the care at home too. And suddenly there's a huge increase in the children are at home, the elderly are at home. You don't have any care, the official or what do I say, the structured care homes or help or whatever that was available, that has also gone down. So the women have been hit badly. And I'm glad that UN has realized this, and they're making it a point that every country should include women in the policy making. But it can't happen overnight, isn't it? So unless they're there already in those leadership spaces or leadership roles where they can influence the policy making, it can't happen unless they make every country, every state, every decision making body makes it a point to include women as part of, because all said and done, it is the women who will know what affects them the most, what benefits them the most. So it may be too late now to include them, but I think we should start at the grassroots, wherever it happens, whenever there is any policy body that is, give them enough representation, allow the women to have a voice. I think our country that way is better, but there's so many places where they have no voice whatsoever. So even on a global level, I think women need to be given a voice, and that is a huge area where the entire world needs to improve. And then as of now, we can definitely help by promoting or giving more incentives or more help, even whether it is by way of paid leave, whether it is by way of giving them, the options. Now, after all, the pandemic has thrown up such a lot of good points as well, where we've been allowed to work from home. There's so many sectors and industries where they have been working from home. So employ more and more women in those kind of, that's what the governments can do. Give them a better way to work so that they can fulfill their responsibilities. They say it's like, unpaid care work that they do, which they can't hand over to anybody else because they are the ones who have to do it. So that is one point which every government should look into. and support those industries where women are the major workforce, like the health industry, for example. We never stopped working. That is one thing. Even points like manufacturing PPE kits, they're all manufactured with men. And I had actually written an article on this because the 70%, 60 to 70% of the people using those PPE kits in the healthcare center are women, but they are designed with a 6-foot rugby player in mind. So such small things even make a difference to the way we work, the way you're comfortable in your workspace. There are lots and lots of places where we can make differences. And yes, as far as policy making is concerned, there is no doubt that we should be involved. And that way, I feel the place where I work, we have a better say and we are able to voice our concerns as well as our viewpoints. And unless that voice is given, and I think here we don't only need to make the women aware of both their rights as well as their capabilities. I think the men also should be educated that, women are capable of doing a lot of things. They multitask like nobody else on earth. And since they can do that, they can balance work and home all the time. Just give them a choice, just give them a chance and see what they can do.
I love that phrase, give them a choice and give them a chance. That's a wonderful phrase. And, as you said, men need to be involved. And one of the comments that people always make about these Women's Day celebrations is, what's the use of all of you women sitting and talking? You can't do it without the men. They need to be there.
In fact, one of the reasons I think we did, have a brief chat on that. I wanted to know whether the audience would be only women or whether it would be
we have opened it out to men as well, but how many men are there? I don't know. Whether they see,
my husband is
celebration and kind of, switch off. Oh, it's something to do with women, and I don't know, but it's open.
They need to hear and they need to make this conscious decision to involve the women in whatever decisions that are made anywhere, not just involving the women workspace, anywhere, so that everyone gets a chance to get their voice up there.
So yesterday we had a panel discussion with women. So with mothers. Okay. Yep. So we were saying next International Day, we're going to have it with fathers of sons, because I think the son and the father is more important.
Yeah, that's where we should start. With our children, with our sons. And of course, the husbands are a little too late to teach.
You also mentioned all the stress that women particularly have to undergo during this pandemic. And actually, my director was drawing my attention to an article by Forbes which said 5 million jobs were lost by women, which they said were threefold than that of men. In the US, where we think, women and men have more parity, gender parity is there. Even there, more women, 3 times more women have lost their jobs than men.
Yeah.
And, even before the pandemic, when they look at malnutrition and health, they always say that women are more, let's say the vulnerable sector than men. And I always think that as long as women are in charge of the kitchen, and especially when they are the homemakers, so to speak, and you have your money has come down, you've lost your job, your husband is laid off, and there is limited amount of money, and you have to manage on that, and you're cooking, and you will tend automatically to feed your husband and your children before you kind of look after yourself. So how important is it to prioritize health care for women, and what should we do about that?
I think it's one of the most important areas where the government needs to focus. And luckily, India has already started doing it. There are things in place. There's something called Lakshita, because after all, there's a lot of focus on our own specialty, where women face a lot of problems. Like earlier they used to say it's a second birth. Every labor that they undergo, there is a lot of risk involved. And the nutrition before they become pregnant, the care after pregnancy, the near misses that happen, the severe morbidity that can take place. So the government has put up a program called Lakshita, and that is where there are laid down guidelines on how the government the labor room should function, what should be your infrastructure, what should be your health resource, what should be your equipment available. So I think those are in place, but we need to avail it. We need to make the audience, the clientele, you can say, or the women aware of what all is available. You don't need to, deliver at home all the time, and all this is free. But there are a lot of people who don't know about it even. So that kind of awareness is very important. Secondly, again, the men have to be involved. They need to know that pregnancy and childbirth is not just a cakewalk that you just become pregnant and you just deliver and then you just come back to life. It's not like that. It is a lot of work, and the immediate postpartum period as well. And when I talk about this as a gynecologist, the entire reproductive age group is vulnerable to different things at different uh, times in life. So you have the adolescents who have certain problems which should be picked up early, right from anemia, right from malnutrition, right from any other gynae problem that they may have or any other problem. The girls should be screened, and they should be, so that kind of screening program should be in place right across the board. And then secondly, you should have the a part of your government should be responsible. Generally it is given to, they say it's not a very high priority ministry. So I guess it starts from there. You should give it enough importance, take a part of your outlay that is there. So it starts from governance, it starts from policy making. Thirdly, from us, people like us who are capable of making people aware of what is available to them, what they should do, what they can do. And again, making the men aware that their wives need to be looked after. They're not just baby making machines, which especially in India there is a lot of it. Why do you need to go to a hospital? Why should you have an institutional delivery? Our mothers never did. I mean, that's the constant argument that our ladies, you and I sitting in urban places, we are a much more pampered lot. But there's so many of our women sisters who are in places where they have no access even to a doctor, even to a trained, skilled attendant in a country like us. And it's very tough to go through life like that. So I think prioritizing starts from governance, and then it goes right down to each one of us to make, there's so many of us whom we meet, and we meet our, the help at home, the staff in the office, everybody. I make it a point to, tell them that being a working woman, whatever be your work, whatever be your job, or being a homemaker for that matter, there's so many responsibilities that you are doing. You are not, somebody unimportant. You're the most important person in the family. And unless you think it is like that, you cannot, what do I say, behave or bring up your children in that manner. So I think it is up to us to tell everybody as well, and at least make use of the things that are available to us, make the best of that, tell people what all they can avail of. And there are a lot of things in place which possibly even we are not aware. I recently wrote an editorial about women's health, actually, on a global level, and someday I'll send it to you. So I looked at it, and it's not limited even to India. Even in places like US, there's such a lot of the population who's not even aware of the things that should be done, be it in the antenatal period, in the postnatal period, in menopausal age. There's so many problems which are specific to women. So unless that is taken care of, the country can never improve. The health of a country is measured by the health of its women and its children. So I think it's high time that we woke up to that fact. Anita?
I think
Aida,
we
I think
lost.
we just lost the video link.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
think
maybe
we
she's
lost ma'am.
reconnecting. Yeah.
So until ma'am joins. So
Yeah.
when ma'am you were talking, I was just you were talking about men should be given education that
Yes.
is about women. So I was thinking right from their childhood, since they are born boys, we should be giving them education on how to that women are also equal to them. So I think by sharing house chores, if there is a daughter and a son in the family, I think the parents have to take a decision that both of them be treated equally and given equal opportunities to make decisions and choices.
Absolutely. And I always feel, even, in things like insurance, they say you plan for the son's education and the daughter's marriage. Why? You should be able to plan for the daughter's education as well. She's equally important. She's equally as much an individual who needs to be, marriage is secondary. But first, you make the girl fit to be standing on her own feet. And then from that point of view, I'm very thankful to my parents who have, we are three sisters, and we have all been, my mother was a homemaker, so she's very intelligent. For whatever reason, her education had to be stopped because she was very young when her father passed away. But I think that sort of prompted her to instill in each one of us that sense of, more than equality, individuality. I mean, you should be a person in your own right. Your choices are yours. You may be whatever you want to be. You may be a homemaker, you may be a doctor, you may be a teacher, you may be whatever you want, but be who you want to be and be capable of standing up for yourself, doing what you want to do, what you need to do. And for that, I'm ever grateful to both my parents and my entire family and my husband, because he's never stopped me from doing anything. There's never a question of being allowed to work. You want to work, you work. I mean, it's because you want to do it. It's because, and for that, I'm thankful to all those people in my life. And I've tried to do that as far as my children were concerned as well. I've got a son and a daughter, and we've never made a difference on, who needs to do what, who needs to be what. And even for fun, if my daughter says, okay, then if I don't do something, you can just get me married off. So I make sure that it's never an option. You be who you want to be first, and then you can think of everything else. You find someone, it's fine, but it's never, you finished your graduation, you got a job, so now you get married. It's not like that. It's not a timeline like that at all in our family. And I hope that goes home. And I feel that's the way it is. We have three sisters. My second sister is a vet, but she chose an alternative profession somewhere well after 40, after she had given her, she became, now she's a very successful administrator. So it's never too late. Those choices come your way, make your choice. My youngest sister is a homemaker, and she's absolutely happy being that. She keeps a beautiful home. She keeps a wonderful family who's happy with everything she does. And so we are three different people brought up in the same circumstances by the same set of parents, but we've made entirely different choices, and all of us are happy wherever we are. So I think that's what we need to teach all our daughters, that choose, make your choice, and then just live by that choice.
So in connection to that, we need the freedom to choose, right? That's what I think most women are asking for, the freedom to be able to make whatever choice that they want without society telling them what to do, without families telling them what to do. And, I have to bring in this grim subject into this conversation, because we can't just ignore it and sweep it away under the rug. And that is the violence that is happening against women. Both as an army officer and as a mother, you have a daughter and a son. We all know that for many women, this is a brutal reality with which they live every day. And for many of us others, it's always a seed of fear within us that we will become part of the statistics. It can happen at any given moment. So both as an army officer and as a mother, what can we do? I mean, how, it's been going on, and pandemic has only seems to have increased the violence and not decreased it. So how do we, what do we do about this?
I mean, there's no easy answer to this at all, because it has to start from the mindset, a mindset that is, I think, global. There's no country in the world, there's no place in the world where there is no violence against women. It is there. It may be hidden, it may be, like you said, under the rug, but it's there. And I would think that even a sexual harassment that goes on is also part of the gender harassment, or a kind of mental violence that is there against women. And the mindset, again, has to be in both the genders. We have to bring up our sons and the men to know that this is wrong. And possibly it starts from the sexist jokes. It starts from the pink and blue that we make for all, right from birth, that men are this way and women are that way. So everywhere, even I feel, even in our generation, we do think, the men must be taller, they should earn more, they should be older to you. There's so many things where in, what do I say, implicitly, we're putting in that thing that they should be at a higher level, even as far as a couple is concerned. So that is one. Secondly, we should make our girls empowered right from school. And if they're not there in school, then wherever they are, go out there, reach out to them, try and have programs where we have so many NGOs who are willing to do these things and teach the women that it's not right. It is not at all right for you to be subjugated in any way. Nature has made us different. So yes, physically, I acknowledge, and as a woman, as a gynecologist, I know that our bodies are made differently. So there is an easier way to, physically overpower us or physically do some harm. And again, the big thing about, our bodies being the honor of the families, and whatever we do finally goes back to being the honor of the family. I think that cross should be taken away from us. It's just a body. It's just what somebody has done to us. It's as much as violence as anything else. Secondly, we should have virtual spaces where they can reach out to, because like you said, the pandemic has brought out all the inequalities that are there in the world into much sharper focus. Everywhere that there is an inequality, it has been potentiated by the pandemic, and especially so in these women who are being abused at home. They're actually being locked down in the house with the abuser. So the abuser also has his own levels of frustration. So there are problems that have been potentiated by the pandemic. So we should have virtual safe spaces where they can reach out to, and they can be told it is okay to be, if you can't tolerate it, or not even tolerate, if it is just happening there at home, like those programs where you ring the bell, where you make sure that the woman knows that it is not wrong to complain against any kind of abuse that is happening at home, be it verbal, be it physical, be it sexual. There is a lot of marital rape which happens, and it happened much more during the COVID times, because the women are, they don't have a place to even move because they can't go out. And it is a sad reality, but it happens, marital rape. It is a part of Indian households. It is there. So all these things, unless we put it out there for the women to know that it is wrong to, to even suffer, it is not. And there are places, there are people you can reach out to. Unless we do that right now, there is nothing else that we can do. And the second, and I mean, the most important thing is that we start at the grassroots and make sure that our sons and all the men in our lives know that it is wrong. Just because you're physically superior, it is just absolutely wrong to use that force on women. And unless we bring up our boys and our men to acknowledge that, and to, it should be there in the mind that it is wrong to hit women or to use any kind of violence. Unless that's there, it's very difficult. So it's a long process, but I think we shouldn't give up. And especially people like you and me who are, molding younger minds, we should take it as an opportunity to talk about these things as well, not only just the academics. Like all the school teachers, they're there. They're so very important, because that's how your formative years are shaped. So unless it's there in your mind from the time you're from the time you're growing up, it cannot be suddenly done overnight. Till then, we reach out to them, we give them as much help as is possible. If you know that there is some violence going on, make it your business to put an end to it. It is always, we always hesitate because you don't want to interfere. You don't know where interference stops or where responsibility starts. So, but if it is there, it's going on in your, own little circle, try and do your best to put an end to it, either by talking or by telling them of the legal avenues that are available. So many ways where you can improve their lives. And I think we are the more privileged ones. So I feel we should try and do that in our little circle. So maybe if each one of us does that, we can make a small difference and create a ripple which can become a bigger wave a little later. Maybe we may not be there to see it, but it will come sometime. And I am always hopeful.
I think you're absolutely right about the schools. I think that we need programs for boys. I mean, it's not for girls that we need programs. We need programs on like positive masculinity for the boys from a young age so that they, grow over this thing. I think maybe it'll happen only women are in policy spaces, then maybe they'll, such programs will come into place. But I do hope.
But I feel it is not even required right now. It is the most important thing, I agree. But right now, each one of us can make that little change in our own environment, which will slowly grow into a bigger wave, I feel.
Yes, yes, you're right. The family finally is the smallest unit, but the problem is it's not happening. And to make that change, we need our schools to come in. So I think it's time, and it's time for us to wrap up. So before we leave, Brigadier, what message would you like to give the young girls in general and defense aspirants in particular?
Okay, message is fine, but I would not say advice, because I feel no one can advise you on your life. It's your life. Live it the way you want. You have a dream, you can realize it. There is no way anybody can stop it, not even you, if you put your mind to it. And as far as the defense is concerned, yes, right now we have much lesser numbers. We have just about 40, 50 options available. They're first only available as short service officers. But it is something that you can all aspire to. And I always feel the girls or the women who come into the defense forces are much better, because just by virtue of the competition, you get among the best, because you have so many more boys coming in and such little space available for girls. Even in our college, and like AFMC, we have just about 40, 50 girls who come in among a yearly lot of 150. So the competition is much fiercer, so you get a better lot. And it is, as far as a message is concerned, I know that if you try to carry so many apples, a few of them may fall off, but that's fine. You've made your choice. You can make it. You can do multitasking. You don't want to multitask, don't do it, delegate it. You can still realize your dream. There is no timeline. You finish your degree, you get married, it's not like that. You do it when you want. You have a baby if you want, have a baby when you want. There is no, now you got married, everybody's asking for your good news. So when it is good news for you, you can give it to them. You don't need to make it a good news just because someone else thinks that you should be giving them good news. So at every point, it is your choice. You will always have choices in your life, right from school, right from your workplace, right from your family, your husband, your mother, your children. You will always have choices. Think about your choices, make your choice, and then be happy with your choice. And once you've made your choice, there's no dream that you cannot realize. It may be a cliche to say it, but the sky is the limit, because women are strong and women can achieve whatever they set their minds to.
So thank you so much, Brigadier, for joining us. I see a lot of positive remarks here. Okay, there is one question. Is it safe for women to join the armed forces?
Absolutely. You have no safer place to join. Why would you say it is not safe? Whoever is asking that question, in what way you feel, we have I think we are a more disciplined force and a more disciplined society than any of the societies around. And as far as safety is concerned, you can be walking on the road and you may not be safe.
Absolutely.
And as far as the forces are concerned, I have no doubts in saying that I've been here for now 34 years. 33 years. So it is an absolutely safe place. And it depends a lot on how you interact with people too. Because that's one thing which I wanted to bring out as far as women who work. you share your responsibility when it's possible, and there's no one who will, refuse to help when you have a problem or you want to, uh, because your family demands or whatever the reason. But don't ask for equality if you don't want to be equal. If you're equal, do everything in your workplace or wherever you are with equal dedication, with equal, you shouldn't take advantage of your gender. You don't do that. And I'm sure when you need some help from whatever reason because of your gender, it will be given to you. I have worked in a very male dominated environment. We have very few ladies in the army, and especially at my seniority, they were even lesser. But whenever I have, because I have not shirked from whatever responsibility was given to me, my colleagues have been very helpful. If I have needed to be, something to be deferred, maybe a temporary duty where you have to go alone and that doesn't suit me at that particular time, somebody else would do it. But provided I was willing to do it whenever my turn came, and I never shirked from it. So I feel that is an important part of your responsibility as well when you become a woman who works.
All right, so we will wrap up with, I'll quote from you, give the women a choice and give them a chance. Yes, to all the men in the world, give your women a choice and a chance. And to the girls who are listening and to the women, once you make your choice, please do pursue it with dedication. And wonderful example is Brigadier. One last question, because I forgot, I just remembered, you're a poet as well. What impulsed you to write before we wrap up?
Oh, I love words. I have loved reading. I was, in fact, again, I would go back to my childhood. I was a member of 4 or 5 libraries at a time, and I would take books. And what do I say? I mean, at the risk of sounding a little immodest, academics came easy to me, so I didn't really mind the studying part. But even then, my mother would be a little worried, ki, will I lose my first rank, So, but despite that, I read a lot. And so words are my favorite friends. And whenever things have been a little tough, or, when I want to talk, I think words help a lot. And I've discovered that when I started writing, there was such a lot of feedback which came to me. And I was mirroring so many emotions, so many aspirations, so many, which are, they say you express it in such better words. We feel it, but you express exactly what we feel. So that was a huge fillip. And I started writing for Women's Web on women's issues. I'm not a rabid feminist, but I believe in equal opportunities for women with a passionate heart. And I believe in that. And I also believe that we are more, nurturing comes to us by nature. So love and nurturing is part of being a woman. And I find writing helps me express that part of me, which obviously I can't do it at the workplace or in my work. And there's never a time which, life is not going to tell you you can now work, you can now be a mother, you can now be a writer, you can now be, it all goes simultaneously. So there are parallel rails. And I always make time to write. I write almost every day. I may not publish everything I write, but most of what I write is published on my site. And it gives me a huge amount of solace and comfort. And it's an outlet where I can vent what I want to say, which I may not get a platform always. So words
Thank
are
you
my
so
best.
much for a wonderful, wonderful session with you and some wonderful points made. So to all my listeners, we have, we all saw her as an example, even more than what she said, an army officer, a professor, a doctor, poet, and a woman, mother, wife, all the roles. Thank you so much, Brigadier, for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me here today. And I'm sure whatever you said about me is holds true for each one of us as a woman, and you too. I hope we'll remain connected.
In touch.
Okay. See you. And all the very best to all those young minds who are listening to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ida.
Thank you.